Mae Brussel has been pointing out for a number of years her thesis, which has endured her, by the way, a lot of scorn at the hands of many people, that in fact all of these serial killers were in fact a form of agent provocateur. What this is basically, according to Mae's thesis, and it appears to be borne out in terrifying fashion and degree by this particular book, is that this is a type of application of the strategy of tension, that if you take a society and you unleash all of these horrendous screwball killers, or killers we're told are screwballs, it has the effect of driving the political spectrum to the right. People want law and order, they want stronger laws, more cops, more jails, quicker capital punishment, and in general it predisposes them to accepting the incredible. It's just, well, with all those nuts out there, you never know who's going to do what. So if 900 people commit suicide in the middle of the jungle under preposterous circumstances, or if lone nuts come forward to begin killing politicians, there's a context in which that occurs. But again, this is a way of driving people to the right. These horrible killings, these apparent screwballs running all over the place, just gives the impression of a society that is decaying. And what we need is law and order. We need a Fuhrer. We need someone to set this right. We need George Bush. Yeah.
George. Again, for those of you who haven't had a chance to go out and get this book, which is probably most of you since it's very new, and again, if you want an example of something we've talked about in the past, it's the way that if you're wondering how these things can crop up and then they just get ignored this way, or they get downplayed, or why don't people talk about these things, we talked at great length about the fact that John Hinckley took a shot at Ronald Reagan, not only had heavy connections between his family and George Bush's family, which, let's face it, no Agatha Christie-type mystery in the world would get away with something as obvious as that, as far as a plot twist. But then on top of it, John Hinckley was a member of a Nazi group and had a Nazi uniform and went to Nazi rallies, and there were interviews in the newspaper with his Nazi buddies who said, gee, we always thought the guy was the heat. We thought he had to be a government agent. He was so crazy. And then when John Hinckley's trial came along, both the defense and the prosecution agreed that the Nazi part of John Hinckley's career was entirely a figment of John Hinckley's imagination. And even after there'd been national newspaper articles with his old Nazi Bund mates talking about him, then the prosecution and defense managed to agree that there was no such thing as John Hinckley's Nazi past. So if you folks think that, if you wonder how something like some of these details about David Berkowitz or the Manson family can scoot by under the table, just remember that one, which was only 7 years ago.
One of the most ominous connections here is that there are connections to very powerful elements, including elements of police, elements of the military and intelligence community. I would have preferred that Maury Terry went even farther than he did, but this is a masterpiece of investigation and really is going to open up a whole new area of political research for people.